All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this example. Now in the last video, what I wanted to say was that, remember, again, these have to be one-to-one functions, right? So in the last two examples, we had two one-to-one functions that we could do those 4 steps. Now, if you look at this, you should be able to recognize that this is not a one-to-one function, because this is just a parabola that's shifted to the left 4 units, right? So, and if you remember the horizontal line test, this doesn't pass the horizontal line test, so it's not a one-to-one function. So in this case, we would not be able to find an inverse function, right? But in a lot of cases, like in this one here, the directions will restrict the domain, right? So if we restrict the domain to a certain interval, then guess what? The function may be one-to-one on a restricted domain. For example, in this problem, they said they restricted the domain for all x greater than or equal to 0, right? So as soon as you restrict the domain, this function is one-to-one on this, for this domain, okay? So, and that's what we call a restricted domain. Now, we can find the inverse as long as we understand that it's on that restricted domain. So now, we're going to go through the steps. So we're going to replace m of x with y. And then we're going to exchange or swap x and y. And now we're going to solve for y. So now we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. And so that's going to give us y squared equals x minus 4. And now we're going to take the square root of both sides. And this is going to give us y equals, plus or minus the square root of x minus 4. Now normally we would say, oh, there's no inverse, because remember, we can't have a plus minus here. That means, hey, there's 2 values of y, right? So for every x value, or excuse me, or if this is going back, but this plus or minus is going to be a problem. But since we're only interested in x being greater than or equal, right? Because in this case here, well, let me think. Yeah, this is fine, because if this is the inverse, right? So hold on a second. I'm sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. So if I do, again, once we get here, we go f inverse of x is equal to plus or minus x, the square root of x minus 4. Now here's the thing. The inverse function here is plus or minus the square root of x minus 4. So this is going to do something like this. Right? It's a sideways parabola. So the plus or minus is, let's say, if this is the x-axis, because all it's doing is it's shifted right 4 units. So we know at 4 it's 0. Okay? And so we have a sideways parabola, and of course that's why we have the plus or minus, because for every x value we have a corresponding positive and negative y value. Okay? So this is good. So disregard what I said about the plus minus. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, because we're restricting the domain. Yeah, so because we're restricting the domain to x being positive here, right? That means that we only want positive y values. So that means this goes away. That's why. So then, boop, there we go. So we could disregard that. So yeah, I was right. I was right for the wrong reason. All right. Have a great day.